The police officer's voice sounded like it was coming from underwater when he told me that my husband was dead. I remember standing in my kitchen, holding a coffee mug that said "World's Best Wife" that Marcus had given me as a joke on our 10th anniversary, and I couldn't understand why the words weren't making sense. Dead. That word didn't belong in a sentence about Marcus. Marcus was 34 years old. Marcus had a dentist appointment scheduled for next Thursday. Marcus had just renewed our Netflix subscription. Dead people didn't do those things. Dead people were old or sick or had done something dangerous. Dead people weren't my husband. They weren't the person who had kissed me goodbye that morning and said he'd be home by 6. The officer kept talking. A car accident on Highway 12. Marcus had been alone in the vehicle. He'd lost control, coming around a curve, and by the time the paramedics arrived, he was already gone. But before he died, and this is the part that still doesn't make sense, the part that has destroyed me and rebuilt me and destroyed me again 1,000 times over. Before he died, he said something to the paramedic who found him. He said, "Tell Emily I'm sorry." Those were his last words. The very last thing my husband said before he left this world forever. And it wasn't about me. It wasn't an apology to his wife. It wasn't a final message of love or regret or anything that belonged to our marriage. He was thinking about someone named Emily. I didn't ask the officer to repeat it. I didn't say, "Are you sure?" Or maybe he said something else. I just hung up the phone and sat down at my kitchen table, and I waited for the grief to come. But it didn't come. Instead, what came was something else entirely. What came was a question that would consume the next 6 months of my life. Who the hell was Emily? The funeral was 3 days later. I wore black. I cried in front of people who had known Marcus for years, people who kept saying things like, "He was such a good man," and "You two were so happy together," and "He's in a better place now." None of it felt real, none of it felt true. I kept thinking about those 3 words, "Tell Emily I'm sorry," and I kept wondering if any of these people knew who Emily was. I kept watching their faces to see if anyone reacted strangely when they said his name, if anyone looked guilty or confused or like they knew something I didn't. Nobody did. And that's when I knew that whatever this was, whoever Emily was, Marcus had been hiding her from everyone. After the funeral, when the casseroles had been eaten, and the flowers had started to wilt and everyone had stopped calling to check on me, I went through his phone. This was 3 weeks after he died, which means the police had already released it to me, which means I had access to his entire digital life. And I was terrified of what I would find. Part of me didn't want to know. Part of me wanted to believe that there was some innocent explanation, that Emily was a coworker or a cousin or his childhood best friend's daughter. But I already knew better. I already knew that my husband, the man I had married, the man I had built a life with, had been keeping secrets. His phone was a minefield, no passwords, which was somehow worse than if he'd had them. Like he wasn't even trying to hide. And I found her in his photos. Hundreds of photographs. Marcus and a woman with red hair and freckles standing on a beach. Marcus and the woman in a hotel room. Marcus and the woman at a restaurant, her hand on his arm, both of them smiling at the camera. The photographs went back years, not months, not weeks, years. I couldn't breathe. I remember sinking down onto the bathroom floor and trying to take in air, but it felt like my lungs had forgotten how to work. My husband had been having an affair for years, and his last words on this earth were an apology to the woman he was cheating with. His last words weren't for me. They weren't for the life we'd built together. They were for her. I found her name in his emails. Emily Chen. She worked at his company, which meant he saw her every single day. I found their conversation threads, and I read through years of messages, love notes, apologies, plans for secret meetings, arguments where she threatened to leave him and he begged her to stay. And then, about 6 months before he died, the tone changed. The messages became more distant. He was trying to end it. He was saying that he needed to focus on his marriage, that he owed me that much, that it wasn't fair to either Emily or me to keep living this double life. But Emily didn't want to end it. Emily wanted him to leave me. Emily wanted him to choose her, and in the final messages, written just days before he died, Emily was threatening to tell me everything if he didn't end our marriage. I closed the phone and sat in the darkness of my bathroom for hours. I was trying to process the fact that my husband hadn't just been unfaithful. He had been manipulated, or he had been in love, or both, or neither. I was trying to understand if his last words, "Tell Emily I'm sorry," meant that he was sorry for trying to leave her, or sorry for the pain he was causing, or sorry for dying before he could fix whatever was happening between them. I was trying to figure out if my marriage had been real at all, or if it had just been a cover story for the relationship that actually mattered. The next day, I did something I'm not proud of. I went to his company and I waited for Emily Chen to come out for lunch. I recognized her from the photographs, the red hair, the freckles, the exact same face that had been smiling at my husband in dozens of images. She didn't recognize me. Why would she? I was just another woman in the parking lot, and she was too busy looking at her phone, too wrapped up in her own world to notice me watching her. I followed her to a coffee shop. I sat 2 tables away and I just looked at her. I tried to see what Marcus had seen. I tried to understand what was so special about her, that he had risked his marriage, his reputation, his entire life. She was pretty, sure, but so was I. She seemed nice, but so was I. She ordered a complicated coffee drink and talked to the barista like she was genuinely interested in his day, and I hated her so much that I could barely breathe. I didn't approach her that day. Instead, I went home and I did something else I'm not proud of. I created a fake Facebook profile and I sent her a message. I said that I was a friend of Marcus's, that I had heard about his death, and that I wanted to reach out to anyone who had been close to him. I wanted to know if she'd like to talk about him. She responded within minutes. She was devastated. She said that Marcus had been her best friend, that she couldn't believe he was gone, that she would never forget him. Best friend. That's what she called him. That's how she described the man she had been photographed kissing in hotel rooms. The man she had been threatening to expose. The man whose last words had been an apology to her. Over the next few weeks, I pretended to be her friend. I asked her questions about Marcus. I let her talk about how much she missed him, how complicated their relationship had been, how much she loved him. And with every message, I felt something inside me break a little bit more, because gradually, through all of her words, I started to understand something. Emily wasn't some conniving homewrecker trying to destroy my marriage. Emily had been in love with my husband, and my husband had been in love with her. And they had both been trapped in this impossible situation, where they had to choose between what their hearts wanted and what they thought they should do. And then, one night, Emily wrote something that changed everything. She said, "I know this is going to sound crazy, but did Marcus ever tell you about his daughter?" I stopped typing. I read that sentence again and again, trying to make sense of the words. Daughter. Marcus didn't have a daughter. We didn't have children. We had decided early in our marriage that we didn't want kids, that we were happy with just the 2 of us. I remember having that conversation. I remember being grateful that we were on the same page about something so important. "I'm not sure what you mean," I typed back, my hands shaking so badly that I could barely hit the keys. "Yeah," Emily wrote. "I didn't think he would have told you. That was one of the things that made everything so complicated. Marcus had a daughter from before you guys got married. She was born when he was 19. He didn't raise her, her mother wouldn't let him, but he paid child support for her whole life. He saw her when he could, and I was the only person he told about her. I was the only person who knew." I felt the world tilt beneath me. Everything I thought I knew about my husband, everything I thought we had shared, was suddenly a lie. He had a daughter, a child, a whole entire human being that he had hidden from me for 13 years. And he had told Emily, his mistress, his affair, his secret love. He had confided in her about something he had kept hidden from his wife. I didn't respond to Emily's message. Instead, I closed the app and I sat in the darkness of my bedroom, and I let myself fall apart completely. because I realized then that I didn't know my husband at all. And I never would.